Relatively quick, should be a pretty short episode, and we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes. So I'm waiting. I'm still waiting. There we go. All right, now I'm going to open up YouTube. That's what I was waiting for YouTube to connect. I'm going to click here. All right. I'm going to do a search for Theology Central. Theology Central. Here we are. I'm going to unplug that. Right now, I'm going to open up YouTube. That's what I was waiting for. Okay, that sounded weird. Okay. All right, here we go. Turn off the chat. That sounds good. All right. Now let's go to webcast. The webcast tab, if it will work. There we go. We're right here. That sounds good. All Test right. 1, 2, 3. Now let's go to Test 1, 2, 3. Come on. The webcast tab, if it will work. There we go. We're right here. Okay, that will not work. That sounds good. All right. Test 1, 2, 3. Everything's crashing. Okay, there we go. All right. Got that set. Do a refresh here. And, well, the map, see, I don't know if the map is working. The map is definitely not working. We'll give it just a couple of seconds to make sure that everything does not completely crash, and then we will begin. If you hear me and you're listening, I do appreciate it. Thank you so very much. I have no idea because right now it tells me no one is listening, and at a minimum it should say 2 because I hit play on YouTube and I hit play in the Sermon Audio app. So, or in the Sermon Audio website. So that should be 2 right there. And now it says 3. So one other person has tuned in. I greatly appreciate that. Always appreciate when people tune in. So we will begin here in just a second. Again, this should be relatively quick. I was just kind of sitting here going, okay, where's my day going? What's going to happen? Kind of waiting to see what I wanted to do, where things were going to go. And then I received an email and I'm like, well, when the episode just drops in your lap, then all I needed to do was take the email and start working, look up some things, try to get some information, put it together really fast, and here we are. So it's kind of one of those impromptu episodes, but sometimes the impromptu episodes work much better than the ones I spend, countless hours trying to make perfect. So here we go. Okay, I got that. I'm going to close that. I'm going to close that. All right. I got 500 different windows open. I'm going to close all of these. Okay. Give it just a couple of seconds and we will get started. I hope this goes well. I really do. I hope so. But like I said, I was just kind of sitting here waiting to see what to do. And then the email came in and I'm like, well, thank you. I can just take this email and turn it into a broadcast within a couple of minutes. So. All right, I think I'm ready to go. I've got the email ready. I've got the notes I threw together. Yeah. Okay, we will see, ladies and gentlemen. Without any further delay, let's do this. We go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Looking at our world from a theological perspective. This is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is Thursday, August the 14th, 2025. It is currently 2:56 p.m. Central Time, and I'm coming to you live from the Theology Central studio, located right here in Abilene, Texas. Now, are you ready to look back in time? Now, I'm not going to make you look way back into ancient history. I want you to look back into the history of your very own life. Specifically, I want you to look back in the history of your life as a Christian. Do you remember the time? Do you remember the place where you first experienced, you first encountered Christian pop culture? Where were you? What was this situation? What happened? What was your response to it? Think back. I want you to think back. If you have a piece of paper, just write down, where were you? What were you doing? What did you experience? What did you encounter? And what did you think when you first experienced your first taste of Christian pop culture? Did you think it was cool? Did you think it was awesome? Were you intrigued? Did you look at it going, what in the world is this? What was your response? Now, the very first time I encountered Christian pop culture, it wasn't here in Abilene, Texas. I would have to drive, 10, 15 minutes south to Buffalo Gap, Texas. I could take you right by the house right now. If you were here, we could get in a car and I could drive by. I could show you the very window of my bedroom where I was when I first encountered Christian pop culture. It was a normal day like any other day. I was alone, by myself, isolated from everyone else because that's basically my life. But I was sitting in front of my stereo equipment, which was basically my life. I put on the headphones. I turned on the tuner. And it's a practice I commonly had. I would go through all the different radio stations first to see if a new one had appeared anywhere on the FM band, or I'd go through. All right, there's Rock 108, which I think is like 107.9, okay? 105 point something is Keene. I think it's called Keene 105. It was the country radio station. There's Q100. I can't remember what it was playing at the time. There was a pop station somewhere like 102, 103. I don't remember exactly what it was. Then 99 point something. I can't remember what that was. I remember some of the frequencies. I don't remember the name of the stations. And I kept going and I kept going. I kept going. And I got to 89.7, which was KACU, public radio. Love that. Then I turned, and all of a sudden I get to 88.1. I'm like, whoa, what is this? It came in crystal clear, and there was music playing. I'm like, wait, okay. And immediately I stopped, and I'm like, I don't know this music. I don't know this song. And immediately I wanted to scream out, help! What's happening? Okay, because if I go through radio dials and a song is playing and I don't know it, something is desperately wrong, unless it's a brand new song, okay? And I'm like, I don't know what this is. And I'm like, okay. So I kept listening and I kept listening. And then the announcer came on, you're listening to KG&Z, the good news, Christian radio for Abilene, Texas, and the big country, broadcasting at 88.1, something along those lines. And then they named some band, and I'm like, what is this music, right? What is this? And this was my first taste of Christian pop culture. So I kept listening, and I kept listening. I kept trying to write down the name of the artist that they would mention. And finally, they played a song, and I thought, oh, this is really good. And so I'm like, well, where do you get this music? Where do you get this music? And I was like, so I started like trying to find out where to get it. And I think I called the radio station. I'm like, what is the name of the band? I can't remember the name of the band at the top of my head. And they said, okay. And I said, where can you buy this music? And they said, well, there's a place in the mall called the Love Shack. And I'm like, there's a place in the mall that sells this kind of music? I've been in the mall a million times. So then I'm like, okay, get to the mall. I got to the mall and I kept walking, and I'm like, right before you entered Sears, which was at the end of the mall, to the right, there was this little place called, I guess, the Love Shack, I think was the name of it. And I walked in, and there was just like a lot of junk, but they had a little small section of Christian music. And I found the album, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I bought the album, and that was my introduction to the world of Christian pop culture. The second introduction was KG&Z told me that there was a band named Petra coming to Abilene, Texas, to Hardin Simmons University. And I'm like, okay, Petra. And they played some, and I'm like, ooh, this sounds pretty cool. I'm like, okay, where can I find Petra? And they're like, well, they don't really sell them in Christian stores because they're kind of considered controversial. You may want to look in a normal record store. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I went back to the mall to a secular record store, not radio store, record store. And I started flipping through, and I found Petra. Not of This World. I think there was the new album. And so I purchased the album, and then that was my introduction to Petra. I went to the concert, and this was my introduction to Christian pop culture. And in fact, I was introduced to Christian pop culture before I was really introduced to the church. And then later on, I end up at a revival service and become a Christian. And then I just throw myself into, then I found out, oh, there's a Bible bookstore on Butternut Street. And I've told the story of my first time walking in there. And this was a large store. It wasn't like this little, I don't even know what this little thing was at the mall. This was like an actual store. They had books, they had shirts, they had posters, they had knickknacks, they had an entire section of music. And it was like, whoa, what is this world? And that's when I was introduced really properly to the world of Christian pop culture. And I began to realize, oh, within Christianity, we have our own books, we have our own music, we have our own this, we have our own this, we have our, and I didn't know any better because I was being told by the church, all that secular stuff, you got to burn your albums, burn this, burn, 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 burn. The Christian pop culture will save you. Or basically, run from the bad world, run and buy all of this stuff. So I kind of embraced it for a large part. Now, I started having some conflict with it. I mean, of course, that's my personality. But that was kind of my first encounter with the world of Christian pop culture. And then slowly but surely, I began to have more and more problems with Christian pop culture. I began to have more and more issues. And then it's just over and over and over time, I became, well, kind of where I am today, which is the opposite of embracing Christian pop culture. Now I see it as just a business. Sometimes people will call it, the military industrial complex or the pharmaceutical industrial complex. It's just the Christian industrial complex. And it's got its own merchandising, its own celebrities, it's got its own everything. And we could have a long talk about, but that was my first experience with it. And I could do a long discussion about my frustration with a lot of it, my great disapproval of much of it. But look, I'm someone who embraced it because I didn't know any better, right? I mean, I embraced it thinking this was the right way to go. And it took a long time as my theology began to develop. Then there was more and more problems with a lot of what I was seeing and hearing and buying and spending a lot of money supporting. Now, why am I asking you? Why am I telling you my story? Why am I asking you to remember your story? Because I know you've got your own. If you've been a Christian, you've been introduced to the Christian pop culture to some level. Well, the reason I'm bringing this up is how long ago? Let me look here. I can look at the email at 1:23 p.m. What's just funny, I mentioned Rock 108 and I mentioned 100.7. I just got two emails. I just got an email from Rock 108 because Megadeth is about to release a new album. And then I just got from 100.7. It's not Q 100.7 anymore. It's Cool FM. I just got two emails from those stations. So that's kind of funny because over time I've emailed some of the engineers and people who work at these stations, and we've talked music and music equipment and sound quality and those kinds of things. So I've ended up on kind of their mailing list. So it's just funny that I literally just mentioned that and they both just emailed me. Rock 108 and 100.7. One is, it's still Rock 108. It's been Rock 108 forever. And the other one is 100.7. It used to be Q 100. Now it's 100.7 Cool FM. All right. Which now plays, I hate the term, older music. We'll call it that. All right. So, but that I'm being distracted by my own inbox. But at 1:23 p.m. today, now I didn't see this till, I don't know, 30 minutes ago, about 30 minutes ago, 35 minutes ago. I don't remember exactly how long. I saw the email and I won't give you the subject line, but I opened it and it says, new book. Oh, a new book. And the name of the book is Jesusland, all run together, Jesusland, Stories from the Upside Down World of Christian Pop Culture. And then they tell me, look for it on your Kindle. And I'm like, ooh, Jesusland, Stories from the Upside Down World of Christian Pop Culture. That sounds interesting. So I started looking things up about the book, and well, that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to try to obviously I haven't read the book. I mean, I just got the email. I just saw the email, 35 minutes ago. So I'm going to just try to introduce it. I'm going to tell you about it. I started looking up a lot of different sources to get information about it. I tried to put it together. So I got some different paragraphs from different sources that kind of reviewed the book, talked about the book. I tried to put all of that together. Then I gave that to artificial intelligence, said, hey, help me put this together. And so I've got a lot of information here. I'm going to challenge you to go purchase the book, right? Purchase a book because it's a critique of Christian pop culture. And I think the purpose of this book is not only to critique what it was, but what it ultimately led to. And I always find that fascinating because I was right there in the midst of Christian pop culture. I was right there in the midst of it. I supported it. I would have even defended it at different times, right? So I was there. Did I perceive at the time where it was headed, where it was leading? I don't know. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. It's always easy after the fact to go, oh yeah, I saw it. But I can't say that I don't know if I was ever looking at it deep enough. I didn't really think about what is all of this leading us to. We definitely know how a lot of it crashed and burned. I mean, just take purity culture. I mean, that whole thing crashed and burned crazy. Like, I mean, we could talk all about the disasters that happened within it. So I think here's what we need to ask ourselves. What happens when you grow up in the glittering, carefully packaged world of Christian pop culture? The purity rings, the modesty checklist, the bouncy girl bands, singing about Jesus. And then you step outside to discover the broader culture and political machinery behind it all. Now, that may sound a little jaded. That may sound a little negative. But there is kind of a cultural, I don't even know if we call it a political machinery. There is a big machine behind it all, right? I mean, it's about making money. That's what it's about. It's about selling merch. That's what it's about. You can say all day it's not, but that's what much of it is. Oh, you can always find those exceptions, right? You could always find the exceptions, but those were rare to find the exceptions to what was going on within the Christian pop culture. So we're going to talk about this new book. And from what I can tell, the new book doesn't just remember looking back at their experience within Christian pop culture. It kind of looks at it and tries to interrogate it to some level. So I think whether you were inside the world or you were looking at it from the outside, or maybe you're still living in it. Maybe someone will stumble upon. I think most people who listen to this podcast, this is my own feeling. I think most people who listen to this podcast aren't really inside the Christian pop culture, right? Because this is really antithetical to everything Christian pop culture stands for. That clearly curated, world of Christian pop culture. That my podcast is the scream against it and the opposite of it. There's nothing here that even sounds like Christian pop culture. This podcast is not all, nicely produced, and it's nothing like what you get within it. So I think most people here may be the outcasts from Christian pop culture. You've been there and you were voted off the island, or you escaped the island, whatever the case may be. But no matter whether you were in it and out of it, whether you're still in it, whether you were never in it, I think this book will offer at least some glimpse and give you some insight about it. So let's give you some basic information, all right? The author, I'm just going to spell Joelle, I guess, Joelle, Joelle Kidd. They are an award-winning journalist,